Hey everyone, I'm Alyssa Ashe. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate each and every one of you guys on this early Right Side Broadcasting Network recap. So it's not your nightly news recap, but it's just your news recap right now, your afternoon news recap, because tonight we will be covering more of the Hurricane Lane impact in Hawaii. We'll be continuing coverage as it kind of either gets worse or veers off and doesn't hit like we're expecting. So just stay tuned. We're going to see whether it hits or not. Some are saying it will hit and some are saying that it won't. So we'll be watching Hurricane Lane again tonight during when I usually do these nightly news recaps. So for now, we're doing an afternoon news recap. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time, welcome. So glad to have you on whatever social media platform you're watching on. We stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be sharing a variety of articles with you, different news stories in world news, political, business, and national, just a variety of stories. And of course, I love your input as well. And today is a crazy day with the hurricane. So bear with me because I'm going to be researching a little bit and finding more news for you as we go throughout the broadcast. So it would be super helpful if you guys could send some stories that I haven't sent yet to @Alyssa RSBN to my Twitter account. That would be much appreciated. And I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. So glad to have you guys here on YouTube or Facebook or our website, Periscope or Twitter, however you're watching. We are really glad to have you here. So I'm going to leave my Twitter handle up here for a little bit just so that you guys are able to see it and connect with me. So we're going to start off our first story. Just yesterday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced that he was going to North Korea with a CEO executive of Ford as a special envoy for renewed negotiations. But today, President Trump actually canceled that trip. So I'm going to show you guys that tweet where he announced it and share some information for you from Reuters News as well. So U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday canceled Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's planned trip to North Korea for renewed negotiations to persuade it to abandon its nuclear weapons, citing insufficient progress on the issue. So President Trump partly blamed China for a stalled monumentum with North Korea and suggested talks with Pyongyang could be on hold until after Washington resolved its trade dispute with Beijing. So it was a dramatic shift of tone for President Trump, who had previously hailed his June summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had been a success and said that the North Korean threat was over. And I'm going to pull up that tweet President Trump tweeted out just today and share it with you guys. So it's actually a thread. There are 3 parts to it, so I'm pulling that up right now. And I'm sorry, a little bit of it is blocked there, I know, but I'll read it to you. President Trump said, "I have asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo not to go to North Korea at this time because I feel we are not making sufficient progress with respect to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula." And then he said, "Additionally, because of our much tougher trading stance with China, I do not believe they are helping with the process of denuclearization as they once were, despite the UN sanctions in place." And he also said Secretary Pompeo looks forward to going to North Korea in the near future, most likely after our trading relationship with China is resolved. In the meantime, I would like to send my warmest regards and respect to Chairman Kim. I look forward to seeing him soon. So there is an update for you guys, and I want to know what you think about this too. Do you think that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo should have been able to go to North Korea in the near future, or do you think it's good that President Trump is putting it off? Please let me know over here on the YouTube chat, on the Facebook chat if you're watching there, or over on my Twitter. I will have that up throughout the broadcast as well, so I'm able to see all of your tweets. So negotiations have stalled since the June summit in Singapore, and Pompeo is pressing for tangible steps toward North Korea's abandonment of its nuclear arsenal, while Pyongyang is demanding that Washington make concessions of its own. So President Trump's statement on Twitter, which you just saw, came just a day after Pompeo said he would again visit North Korea and would take his new U.S. Special Representative, Stephen Biegun, with him in an attempt to break the deadlock. But President Trump asked Pompeo not to go to North Korea during a meeting at the White House on Friday afternoon, according to a senior White House official. Thank you for your feedback. Dan Wolf said if President Trump doesn't want him to go, it's for a good reason, and I support that. Thank you for sharing, Dan. So some U.S. intelligence and defense officials had considered Pompeo's latest trip to be premature and said the prospects for significant progress appeared dim. And Pompeo, who would have been making his second visit to Pyongyang since the summit, had not been expected to meet Kim at the time, according to the State Department. President Trump has put some of the onus on China, North Korea's biggest trading partner and linchpin in the diplomatic effort, for his decision to scrap Pompeo's trip. And Trump tweeted, "Because of our much tougher trading stance with China, I do not believe they are helping with the process of denuclearization as they once were." And over here on YouTube, British Patriot said, "Remember when he canceled the summit? This is the same playbook." It could possibly be. So it might come back on. We will just have to see. So stay tuned. And I'm going to check Facebook real quick just to make sure you guys don't have any thoughts, opinions, questions, or comments over here. Nasa Eng said he wants Pompeo on South Africa. Thank you, Nasa. So Kelly Magsamen is a former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Asian Affairs, now at the Center for American Progress, said that President Trump was undermining his leverage with Kim as well as that of Pompeo and his new envoy. And she tweeted out, "It's fine not to send the secretary due to lack of progress, but then don't also talk about how you are eager to meet with KJU and how China is thwarting you." Kim made a broad, vague commitment in Singapore to work toward denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, but has given no sign of a willingness to give up his nuclear arsenal unilaterally. But intermittent talks have since made little headway, with the two sides apparently far apart on the fundamental issue of denuclearization and the U.S. demand for this before North Korea sees any relief from tough international sanctions. So on his last visit to Pyongyang in July, Pompeo left saying progress had been made, only for North Korea within hours to denounce his gangster-like demands. And he did not meet with Kim on that trip, although he did on his first two visits, which took place before the summit. So U.S. officials have been trying to persuade North Korea to detail the extent of its nuclear arsenal and the locations of its weapons, something Pyongyang had always refused to do in past failed rounds of talks. And like I said, want to hear your thoughts as well on this. So I'm going to put my Twitter handle back up. That's at Alyssa RSBN, where you can tell me your thoughts, opinions, and also send me news stories that you would like me to share with everyone. So while we are on the world sphere, National Security Advisor John Bolton said today that U.S. sanctions against Russia would remain in place until Moscow changes its behavior. So Bolton was in Kyiv to show Washington's support for Ukraine, which celebrated the anniversary of its independence from the Soviet Union with a military parade today. So the United States has imposed sanctions against Russia to punish it for its 2014 annexation of Ukraine's Crimea, support for pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine, and meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, something Moscow denies. So critics of President Trump have accused him of being soft on Russia, and there is a bipartisan push in Congress to impose more sanctions on Moscow. So Bolton, he was speaking before a new round of sanctions announced by the State Department took effect. He set out what he cast as a tough approach by the administration to sanctions. And he told a news conference after talks with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, he said the sanctions remain in force and will remain in force until the required change in Russian behavior. And he said, I underlined what President Trump said in Helsinki to President Putin, that it was the position of the United States that we did not recognize the illegal annexation of Crimea. And he said, our view and our policy remain as they have been. And the Russian ruble has been pushed steadily lower by U.S. sanctions, the latest of which take effect on Monday, according to a notice posted on Friday in the U.S. Federal Register. So Russia's foreign ministry said on Friday that the new sanctions announced earlier this month over a nerve agent attack in Britain would create more tension in bilateral relations, the RIA news agency reported. And wanted to shout out over here on YouTube, we just got a $5 donation from Larry Stokes. Thank you so much, Larry. Really appreciate you. That will definitely help us get to our next rally next Thursday in Evansville, Indiana. So stay tuned for that. So in comments likely to anger Moscow, Bolton said that Kyiv had made progress in its efforts to join NATO and advised Ukraine to look for alternatives to Russian natural gas. And Bolton said a lot depends on Ukraine fulfilling the requirements necessary to meet all of the military and political tests to be a NATO member. And he added, I would say progress is being made, but there's still so much more to accomplish. And Russia strongly opposes NATO expansion towards its western borders and moved to annex Crimea in 2014 after Viktor Yanukovych, Ukraine's Russia-friendly president, was toppled in a popular revolution. So Bolton said, it was important to resolve the Ukraine crisis and that it would be dangerous to leave the situation as it was in Crimea and eastern Ukraine, where Moscow has backed separatists in their conflict with Kyiv. Ukraine actually stopped buying gas from Russia back in November 2015 and now imports gas mostly via Slovakia. And Ukrainian energy firm Naftogaz says the gas in Europe is European in origin, and Moscow says the gas is still Russian despite Slovakia's intermediary role. So Bolton mentioned U.S. liquefied natural gas and other possible replacements to Russian supplies, and he said he had told Poroshenko that Moscow should not meddle in Ukraine's presidential vote next year. And he said, President Poroshenko and I agreed that we will look at steps that the United States and Ukraine could take to look at election meddling here. Okay, so another world story for you while we are still on world news. And this is from Reuters as well. So Pakistan disputes the U.S. account of call between Pompeo and new Prime Minister Khan. So Pakistan has disputed Washington's account of a phone call between the new Prime Minister Imran Khan and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, denying that there was any discussion of militants operating in Pakistan. And Pakistan's foreign ministry called for the United States to amend its statement, but U.S. State Department said it stands by its account. And the row comes ahead of a planned visit by Pompeo to Islamabad in the first week of September to meet with Khan, who was sworn in as Prime Minister just last week. The U.S. State Department readout of the call said Pompeo wished Khan success and also asked Khan to take decisive action against all terrorists operating in Pakistan. And Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said on Friday, the impression which was given where they're saying they mention terrorist presence in Pakistan, that is against the reality. I'm saying it with full confidence. And U.S. officials routinely raise the issue of Taliban and other militants operating from safe havens in Pakistan, where they plot attacks on U.S. and Afghan troops across the border. And Pakistan regularly denies that the Afghan Taliban operates from its soil. So overnight on Thursday, Pakistan's foreign ministry asserted the issue of militants never came up in the phone call between Pompeo and Khan. And the spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Twitter, Pakistan takes exception to the factually incorrect statement issued by U.S. State Department on today's phone call. There was no mention at all in the conversation about terrorists operating in Pakistan. This should be immediately corrected. However, the U.S. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert indicated there would be no correction in response to Pakistan's complaint. And she said in a news conference on Thursday, I can only say we stand by our readout, calling Pakistan an important partner in the region. And she also said the secretary had a good call with the new prime minister, and we look forward to having a good relationship with them in the future. And Pompeo is expected in Islamabad on September 5th and is likely to be the first foreign dignitary to meet with Khan since he was sworn in. Khan is well known for his criticism of U.S. military policy in Afghanistan, but he said after winning elections last week that he seeks better relations with the United States after a series of aid cuts and the suspension of U.S. military training. And wanted to check Twitter real quick. I know some of you have sent me stories, so I want to mix it up a little bit before we finish our world segment. Okay, I have one from Malik Gregerson. Thank you so much for this article from Real Clear Investigations. And it's titled, Despite Comey Assurances, Vast Bulk of Weiner Laptop Emails Were Never Examined. So when then FBI Director James Comey announced he was closing the Hillary Clinton email investigation for a second time just days before the 2016 election, he certified to Congress that his agency had reviewed all of the communications discovered on a personal laptop used by Clinton's closest aide, Huma Abedin, and her husband, Anthony Weiner. So at the time, many wondered how investigators managed over the course of 1 week to read the hundreds of thousands of emails residing on the machine, which had been a focus of sex crimes investigation of Weiner, a former congressman. And Comey told Congress that thanks to the wizardry of our technology, the FBI was able to eliminate the vast majority of messages as duplicates of emails they'd previously seen. Tireless agents, he claimed, then worked night after night after night to scrutinize the remaining material. But virtually none of his account was true, a growing body of evidence reveals. In fact, a technical glitch prevented FBI technicians from accurately comparing the new emails with the old emails. Only 3,077 of 694,000 emails were directly reviewed for classified or incriminating information. And 3 FBI officials completed that work in a single 12-hour spurt the day before Comey again cleared Clinton of criminal charges. So most of the emails were never examined, even though they made up potentially 10 times the evidence of what was reviewed in the original year-long case that Comey closed in July 2016, according to a law enforcement official with direct knowledge of the investigation. Yet, even the extremely narrow search that was finally conducted after more than a month of delay uncovered more classified material sent and or received by Clinton through her unauthorized basement server, according to the official. So contradicting Comey's testimony, this included highly sensitive information dealing with Israel and the U.S. designated terrorist group Hamas. The former Secretary of State, however, was never confronted with the sensitive new information, and it was never analyzed for damage to national security. So even though the unique classified material was improperly stored and transmitted on an unsecured device, the FBI did not refer the matter to U.S. intelligence agencies to determine if national security had been compromised as required under a federally mandated damage assessment directive. And the newly closed classified material was never previously sent out to the relevant original classification authorities for security review, according to the official who spoke to Real Clear Investigations anonymously. So other key parts of the investigation remained open when the embattled director announced to Congress he was buttoning the case up back for good just ahead of Election Day. And one career FBI agent involved in the case complained to New York colleagues that officials in Washington tried to bury the new trove of evidence, which he believed contained the full archive of Clinton's emails, including long sought-out missing messages from her first months at the State Department. And Real Clear Investigations pieced together the FBI's handling of the massive new email discovery from the Weiner laptop. This months-long investigation included a review of federal court records and affidavits, cell phone text messages, and emails sent by key FBI personnel, along with internal bureau memos, reviews, and meeting notes documented in government reports. Information was also gleaned through interviews with FBI agents and supervisors, prosecutors, and other law enforcement officials, as well as congressional investigators and public interest lawyers. So if the FBI soft-pedaled the original investigation of Clinton's emails, as some critics have said, it out and out suppressed the follow-up probe related to the laptop, according to sources for this article. So Michael Basello, a 27-year veteran of the FBI, said there was no real investigation and no real search. It was all just show, eyewash, to make it look like there was an investigation before the election. So although the FBI's New York office first pointed headquarters to the large new volume of evidence on September 28, 2016, supervising agent Peter Strzok, who was fired on August 10th for sending anti-Trump texts and other misconduct, did not try to obtain a warrant to search the huge cache of emails until October 30th, 2016. In violating department policy, he edited the warrant affidavit on his home email account, bypassing the FBI system for recording such government business. He also began drafting a second exoneration statement before conducting the search. So the search warrant was so limited in scope that it excluded more than half the emails New York agents considered relevant to the case. And the cache of Clinton-Abbott communications dated back to 2007, but the warrant to search the laptop excluded any messages exchanged before or after Clinton's 2009 to 2013 tenure as Secretary of State, key early periods when Clinton initially set up her unauthorized private server, and later periods when she deleted thousands of emails sought by investigators. Far from investigating and clearing Abbott and Weiner, the FBI did not interview them, according to FBI sources who say Comey closed the case prematurely. The machine was not authorized for classified material, and Weiner did not have classified security clearance to receive such information, which he did on at least 2 occasions through his Yahoo email account. So many Clinton supporters believe Comey's 11th hour reopening of a case that had shadowed her campaign was a form of sabotage that closed her the election. But the evidence shows Comey and his inner circle acted only after worried agents and prosecutors in New York forced their hand at the prodding of Attorney General Lynch. They then worked to reduce and rush through rather than carefully examine potentially damaging new evidence. And Comey later admitted in his memoir, A Higher Loyalty, that political calculations shaped his decisions during this period. But he wrote, they were calibrated to help Clinton, assuming, as nearly everyone did, that Hillary Clinton would be elected president of the United States in less than 2 weeks. What would happen to the FBI, the Justice Department, or her own presidency if it later was revealed after the fact that she was still the subject of an FBI investigation? What does it matter now? Criminals are clamoring for a special counsel to reopen the Clinton email case, though a 5-year statute of limitations may be an issue concerning crimes relating to her potential mishandling of classified information. However, conducting a broader and more thorough search of the Weiner laptop may still have prosecutorial justification. Other questions linger, including whether subpoenaed evidence was destroyed or false statements were made to congressional and FBI investigators from 2014 to 2016, a time frame that is within the statute of limitations. And the laptop was not searched for evidence pertaining to such crimes. Investigators instead focused their search, limited as it was, on classified information. And also, the FBI is still actively investigating the Clinton Foundation for alleged foreign-tied corruption. That probe, handled chiefly out of New York, may benefit from evidence on the laptop. And the FBI, of course, did not respond to requests for comment. Wow, thank you so much for that article, Malik. Really informative and helpful. Thank you. And I want to know what you guys think about this as well. I know some of you were commenting your thoughts during the broadcast. Please let me know what you think. But like I said, I want to know you guys' thoughts as well. So you can share them here on YouTube, you can share them on Facebook, or you can send them to my Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. And I will throw that up so you guys will be able to see it. So here is my Twitter account at Alyssa RSBN, so you will be able to contact me. I think I got a couple more messages. I'm going to check real quick. And thank you so much. Update from the British Patriot. And I'm going to pull this one up so that you guys can see. And this one is from Reuters as well. So Republican congressional candidate Troy Balderson was finally declared the winner of the hotly contested Ohio special election. And we already knew, that he would be declared the candidate because President Trump called it out on his Twitter. It just took a little bit longer for the news to report it. So Republican congressional candidate Troy Balderson on Friday was declared the winner of a hotly contested Ohio special election that served as the final test of his party's ability to hold off an anticipated surge of Democratic voters in the November elections. So after 2 weeks of counting additional ballots in a district that has historically provided easy victories to Republicans, Balderson was declared by Franklin County officials as the winner over Democrat Danny O'Connor, who said on Friday he called to concede to Balderson. So in the final count, Balderson received 104,328 votes, or 50.2%, and O'Connor had 102,648 votes, or 49.32%, according to Franklin County. And Balderson said in a statement, "I'm humbled by the support I've received from voters and look forward to representing Ohio's 12th congressional district in Congress. Danny O'Connor ran a hard-fought race, but I look forward to earning the support of voters for a fourth time." And the special election was viewed as a referendum on Republican President Donald Trump's leadership and a last chance to gauge Democratic strength ahead of November's midterm elections, in which Republicans are trying to retain majorities in the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. So despite the loss, Democrats are hoping to parlay continued enthusiasm among their base into victories in November. And Republicans are using the narrow victory as a warning that many congressional seats could be lost unless candidates invest heavily in their campaigns, both through fundraising and campaigning. So the special election was called to replace former Representative Pat Tiberi, who resigned from his seat earlier this year to take a job with a business group. And because the August election was only to fill the remainder of Tiberi's term, which ends in January, another election, again with Balderson and O'Connor, will be held in November to elect a representative for the new term. O'Connor said in a statement, "We went door to door, we went house to house, we made our case for change, and the grassroots army we've created is not done yet. In fact, we're just getting started." And another really important and heartbreaking story that I haven't shared with you guys yet is that Republican Senator John McCain will be ending his treatment for brain cancer. So I'm going to get into that a little bit. I saw it earlier today. Started praying for him and his family. And the British Patriot actually sent this my way and reminded me. So thank you so much, British Patriot. And I'm going to share this with you guys. This is from Reuters as well. So U.S. Senator John McCain, the maverick Republican who survived a Vietnam War prison camp and ran unsuccessfully for president, is discontinuing medical treatment for an aggressive form of brain cancer, his family said in a statement on Friday, a year after he announced his diagnosis. The family said John has surpassed his expectations for survival, adding that the disease's progression and his age have led him to stop the treatment for the aggressive glioblastoma. And they said with his usual strength of will, he has now chosen to discontinue medical treatment. And John McCain, who has represented Arizona in the Senate and House of Representatives for 35 years, has said the cancer was discovered in July 2017, and he has not been at the U.S. Capitol this year. He has also had surgery for an intestinal infection in April. And McCain has had a reputation for speaking his mind, which led to a running feud with President Donald Trump. And sources close to McCain have said President Trump will not be invited to the funeral. And the McCain-Trump relationship grew heated in 2015 when McCain said President Trump's candidacy had fired up the crazies, and President Trump retorted that the senator was not a war hero and referred to McCain's years as a prisoner of the North Vietnamese by saying, "I like people who weren't captured." And McCain castigated Trump last month for his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin, issuing a statement that called their joint news conference one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. And he said President Trump was not only unable, but unwilling to stand up to Putin. So McCain sought the Republican presidential nomination in 2000, but lost out to George W. Bush. He secured the nomination in 2008, but was defeated by Democratic nominee Barack Obama, as you know. And McCain has been known as a conservative and a foreign policy hawk with a traditional Republican view of world affairs. He has had a reputation for a hot temper, and he rarely shied away from a fight, but has Democratic fans who admired the way he could take a civil, bipartisan approach. So McCain is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and his colleagues named the $716 billion defense policy for him. And President Trump did not mention McCain when he signed it earlier this month. And Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell said on Twitter, "Very sad to hear this morning's update from the family of our dear friend, Senator John McCain. We are so fortunate to call him our friend and our colleague. John, Cindy, and the entire McCain family are in our prayers at this incredibly difficult hour." And former Secretary of State John Kerry, a Democrat who served in the Senate with McCain, tweeted, "God bless John McCain, his family, and all who love him. A brave man showing us once again that what the words grace and grit really mean." So McCain is the son and grandson of Navy admirals, and after graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy, became a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War. He was shot down during a bombing run over Hanoi and was captured on October 26, 1967. And the crash and assault by his captors left him with 2 broken arms, a broken leg, a broken shoulder, and numerous stab wounds. And he spent the next 5.5 years in various prisons, including the notorious Hanoi Hilton, where he was tortured and left with lasting disabilities. And McCain provided one of the most dramatic moments in recent Senate history in July 2017 when he voted against a Trump-backed bill that would have repealed the health care law pushed through by President Barack Obama. The vote came late at night, long after McCain's diagnosis, and he still bore a black eye and scar from the surgery when he gave an emphatic thumbs down gesture to scuttle the measure. So President Trump was furious about McCain's vote and frequently referred to it at rallies, but without mentioning McCain by name. McCain was elected to the House in 1982, and after 2 terms was elected to the Senate to replace retiring conservative leader Barry Goldwater. And good comment over on YouTube from DW Bigley. Big League, he said, so sad how politics defines what we think of someone. I loved McCain when he was running. I didn't know much then. And thank you so much, guys, for all of your comments and compliments and suggestions. Really appreciate you guys. And also on Facebook, wanted to give a shout out to some that just joined us. Welcome James Russell, Cecilia Esperancia, Carol Yancey Sellers, and Pam Hale and Mildred Griswell. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And it looks like one of my floor lights fell down, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for waiting for a second. Really appreciate it. And I just got a really not great story from one of our members who just sent it over to me. JC, thank you so much for that. And it is from ABC 7 that the former CDC director was accused of groping a woman in New York. So this is Tom Frieden, and I'll leave this picture up as I go through the story. So former Center for Disease Control and Prevention Director Tom Frieden turned himself into authorities in New York City on Friday to face charges that he groped a woman he knew last year, according to law enforcement officials. And Frieden, who is also the New York City Health Commissioner, allegedly grabbed a woman's bottom during a gathering at his Brooklyn apartment last October. And the unidentified 55-year-old woman reported the incident in early July, and Frieden surrendered to authorities at the New York Police Department Friday morning, law enforcement officials told ABC News. So Frieden, who is charged with forcible touching, sex abuse, and harassment, was scheduled to appear in court in Brooklyn for his arraignment Friday afternoon. And a spokesperson for Frieden told ABC News on Friday, this allegation does not reflect Dr. Frieden's public or private behavior or his values over a lifetime of service to improve the health around the world. And Frieden is currently the president and CEO of Resolve to Save Lives, a $225 million global health initiative that aims to prevent 100 million deaths from cardiovascular disease and to prevent epidemics. So Jose Castro, the president and CEO of Vital Strategies, the New York-based nonprofit that houses the Resolve to Save Lives initiatives, released a statement in support of Frieden, saying he has the highest ethical standards personally and professionally, and there have been no incidents of workplace harassment. And Castro said Frieden told him in April about the accusation made by a non-work related friend of his and his family of more than 30 years. Although the accuser is not an employee, Castro said this prompted Vital Strategies to bring in an external expert to investigate whether Frieden had acted inappropriately in the workplace. And in April of this year, and this is Castro's statement that he said today, in April of this year, Dr. Tom Frieden, who heads our Resolve to Save Lives initiative, informed me that a non-work related friend of his and his family of more than 30 years accused him of inappropriate physical contact. And Castro said, I have known and worked closely with Dr. Frieden for nearly 30 years and have seen firsthand that he has the highest ethical standards, both personally and professionally. In all of my experiences with him, there have never been any concerns or reports of inappropriate conduct. And Castro continued to say Vital Strategies is committed to a workplace that is free of sexual harassment. As such, even though she is not an employee, earlier this month we conducted a thorough investigation by an external expert, which included an in-depth interview with every staff member on the Resolve to Save Lives team to determine whether there are any concerns about inappropriate behavior. And this assessment determined there have been no incidents of workplace harassment. And Vital Strategies, and Castro continued to say, Vital Strategies greatly values the work Dr. Frieden does to advance public health, and he has my full confidence. And you guys have sent me a couple more articles. I'm going to pull up on Twitter real quick. This is really quick, only 38 seconds, but a statement from Rand Paul saying that his amendment would end funding to Planned Parenthood, but it is being blocked, surprisingly enough, by Republicans. Thank you, History Bee. I'm going to pull this up and share it with everyone. And it looks like Senator Rand Paul tweeted this out yesterday.
Planned Parenthood ends the lives of 320,000 babies each year. That's about 900 babies every day. Planned Parenthood receives over $400 million of taxpayer money. The government, with a wink and a nod, tells us that Planned Parenthood doesn't spend the money on abortions. But everybody knows that the taxpayers really cross-subsidizing Planned Parenthood's abortion bills. My amendment would end funding to Planned Parenthood. My amendment is already included in the House version. And yet, my amendment is now being blocked by Republicans.
Really surprising that it's being blocked by Republicans. So I'm going to find out some more information for you guys. So stay tuned. This is from a conservative news outlet you guys are going to really like, from the Daily Caller. So Senate rejects bill to defend Planned Parenthood. Rand Paul doesn't hold back. The Senate rejected an amendment to the government spending bill Thursday that would prevent Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers from receiving federal funding. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky proposed the provision, which was defeated 45-48 and required a 60-vote threshold to pass. Republican Senators Susan Collins of Maine, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska voted against it. And in response to the vote, Paul said, "While I am disappointed in the outcome of this vote, I will never apologize for standing up for life. If I ever took exposing the preference of so many in my own party to continue reckless spending over protecting the innocent, it was a fight worth having." And earlier in the day, Paul slammed his Republican colleagues and the Senate floor for blocking his amendment, claiming that the GOP leadership favors bloated government spending more than they care about Planned Parenthood. And Paul argued Planned Parenthood receives over $400 million of taxpayer money. The government, with a win and a nod, tells us that Planned Parenthood doesn't spend the money on abortions, but everybody knows that the taxpayers are really cross-subsidizing Planned Parenthood's abortion mills. And he said this appropriations bill before us exceeds the spending caps by nearly $100 million. Big spending Republicans fear that blocking funding from Planned Parenthood would derail their plans to greatly expand the welfare warfare state. And pro-life organizations praised Paul for his provision, including March for Life and the National Right to Life. And some more information from The Hill. So the vote came after Paul was initially blocked from bringing up his amendment. Leadership has agreed to block poison pill provisions, which would threaten the bipartisan support for the Defense, Education, Labor, Health, and Human Services Appropriations Bill. Paul's amendment would prevent federal funding from going to the organizations and others that provide abortions. And he said in a statement after the vote, "I will never apologize for standing up for life. If it took exposing the preference of so many in my own party to continue reckless spending over protecting the innocent, it was a fight worth having." And Paul lashed out again at Republican leadership from the Senate floor earlier Thursday, accusing them of blocking him for getting a vote. And he asked, the question is, what is more important to these Republicans, saving lives or saving money? And Republicans argued that it was Democrats initially blocking Paul from getting a vote because GOP leadership wouldn't give Senator Joe Manchin a vote on a separate amendment. And despite Republicans having control of the White House and both houses of Congress, they've been unable to cut off federal funding for Planned Parenthood, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And House Republicans included a provision stripping federal funding for the organization in the Health and Human Services bill that cleared the Appropriations Committee. But getting a similar provision in a Senate bill was always an uphill battle because of the Democratic support needed to approve appropriations bills. And Senator Dick Durbin noted ahead of the Senate's vote that abortion was a divisive issue and he would oppose Paul's amendment. He said many people have different, strongly held beliefs on a particular issue. And I want to move on. I have a couple more stories from you guys on Twitter that I want to share. Thank you so much for sending them in. Super helpful. It's a lot of fun when you guys kind of drive the newscast. Okay, this is a fun article. British Patriot, thank you so much for sharing it with me, from TechCrunch.com. And I'm going to pull it up here, show you guys a picture of it. So a Russian arms manufacturer, Kalashnikov, unveils its answer to Tesla. So the Russian's weapons manufacturer, Kalashnikov, best known for making the AK-47 gas-operated rotating bolt rifle with automatic capabilities, has unveiled a fleet of electric and hybrid cars, buggies, and motorcycles this week, including an electric vehicle that the company says will rival Tesla. So you can see a picture of it here. And it says, while it's a noble goal to take competitive aim at the world's most electric vehicle brand, the retro-style concept car, dubbed the CV-1, bears a closer resemblance to another, more infamous car from the Soviet era, the Tabrant. And that's a vehicle which is best illustrated by, a Conan O'Brien demonstration, but I'm not going to show that to you guys just because of copyright. So the CV-1 is based on the retro IZH 21252 model known as the Combi, and is a test bed for Kalashnikov's electric drivetrain, which the company said was developed in-house. And the Combi has a cruising range of 350 kilometers and can go from 0 to 100 kilometers in roughly 6 seconds, according to the company. So batteries for the new electric vehicle from Kalashnikov have a capacity of 900 kilowatts per hour. And at the same gun show where the new EV was unveiled, Kalashnikov also showed off a hybrid buggy and an electronic motorcycle to complete its hat trick. And the 4-seat buggy can purportedly achieve speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour and separate electric engines for both its front and rear wheels, along with the hydraulic shock absorbers. So, according to the Russian news agency RT, the vehicles are a relatively recent addition to the Russian military's mobile arsenal. So Kalashnikov may have Tesla in its sights, but the car company likely has more to fear from U.S. regulators than it does from a Russian competitor. At this point, the weapons manufacturer might find more of a market for another machine. It debuted at the Russian military trade show. You can see right here, it's golden metal-plated killer robot. And also here's a picture of their new electric motorcycle for police units. So more pictures of the AK-47. Okay, thank you so much, British Patriot, for sharing that. Really appreciate you. So the car, I'm sorry, it's not the AK-47, that's the rotating bolt rifle. It is the CV-1. And DW Bigley said it looks like a Transformer movie. Yes, it kind of does, DW. Thank you for sharing that. And also just got a message on Twitter from the British Patriot. Thank you for sharing this. Another article. This is from Fox 11. So Steven Tyler sends a cease and desist to President Trump for the use of his song. So Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler is again demanding that President Donald Trump stop using the brand's songs at rallies. Tyler's attorney sent a cease and desist letter to the president Wednesday, a day after the song Living on the Edge was heard at a Trump rally in West Virginia. And it's not the first time Tyler has asked President Trump to stop using Aerosmith songs. Tyler sent the Trump campaign 2 cease and desist letters in 2015 for its use of the band's music. And the latest letter says that by playing Living on the Edge, the president is falsely implying that our client once again endorses his campaign and or his presidency. And Tyler tweeted, "It isn't a political issue. He just does not let anyone use his songs without permission." And Trump's campaign did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And going back a minute, a comment from Trillion Man. He said they should declare McCain's seat vacant and appoint a new senator based on Senate rules. He has stopped treatment, therefore that makes him unable to perform his duties. Yes, I agree. Thank you for that, Trillion Man. And moving on, I want to see what other stories you guys shared with me to make sure I am not missing any. Okay, it doesn't look like it, so I'm going to switch back over and get to our next story. So I know you guys have heard about this. Some of you have been kind of adding it to your comments about what is going on in South Africa right now. So I have an article for you guys from Reuters. So the United States warned South Africa on Thursday that seizing land without compensation risks sending the country down the wrong path, deepening a spat over Pretoria's efforts to fix a glaring racial disparity after almost 25 years after the end of the apartheid. And South Africa accused President Trump on Thursday of stoking racial divisions in a late-night tweet, which he said he had asked U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to study South African land and farm seizures and the killing of farmers. Washington's charge d'affaires in South Africa, Jesse Le Pen, was summoned by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over the tweet. People with their familiar told people familiar with the matter told Reuters. And President Trump's comments inflamed an already heated debate over land ownership in South Africa, a country that remains deeply racially divided and unequal nearly a quarter of a century after Nelson Mandela swept to power at the end of the apartheid era. So President Trump's tweet appeared to be in response to a Fox News report on Wednesday that focused on South Africa's land issue and murders of white farmers. So sad. And the State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert said on Thursday, the expropriation of land without compensation, our position is that would risk sending South Africa during the wrong path. And she said, we encourage a peaceful and transparent public debate about what we consider to be a very important issue in South Africa. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced on August 1st that the ruling African National Congress plans to change the constitution to allow the expropriation of land without compensation, as whites still own most of South Africa's territory. And writing in the London-based Financial Times on Thursday, Ramaphosa said, this is no land grab, nor is it an assault on the private ownership of property. He has said any measures would not hit the economic growth or food security. No land has been seized since the reform plans were announced, according to the ANC. And his spokeswoman said President Trump was misinformed and the foreign ministry would seek clarification from the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria. And a tweet from South Africa's official government account said South Africa totally rejects this narrow perception which only seeks to divide our nation and reminds us of our colonial past. And at public hearings, suggestions for expropriation included unused land, derelict buildings, circumstances where occupiers have strong historical rights, abandoned settlements, and abandoned city buildings, Ramaphosa wrote on Thursday. And he said that the country would not make the same mistakes that other countries have made, alluding to the violent land seizures in neighboring Zimbabwe. And U.S. Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who is chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in Africa, the subcommittee, he said, all of us would have to be concerned if they went the direction that Zimbabwe did. Right now, it's just a proposal in Parliament. And the State Department's Nauert pointed out that Zimbabwe's government had squashed civil society, shut down the media, and destroyed an independent judiciary. And she said, we have not seen that happen in South Africa. In South Africa's far-left opposition firebrand, Julius Malema, who has led calls for the seizure of white-owned land, told President Trump to stay out of the debate. And he told journalists, you have caused enough problems in Africa. So Senator Cory Booker, the top Democrat on the Africa subcommittee, said President Trump's tweet showed painful ignorance. And the ANC has long had a strained relationship with the U.S. Republican administration, mainly over U.S. support for Israel. And AfriForum, which mostly champions white people's rights in South Africa, welcomed Trump's announcements. And the CEO, Callie Creel, said everyone in South Africa, should therefore hope that the pressure from the USA will lead to the ANC reconsidering the disastrous route that they want to take SA on. And he added that President Trump's comment came just 3 months after the organization sent a delegation to the United States to brief Fox News presenter Tucker Carlson and the Cato Institute think tank on the situation in South Africa. So So violent crime is also a serious problem across South Africa, and 47 farmers were killed from 2017 to 2018, according to statistics from Agri-SA, an association of agricultural associations. However, the same figures show that farm murders are at a 20-year low. And since the end of apartheid in 1994, the ANC has followed a willing seller, willing buyer model under which the government buys white-owned farms for redistribution to blacks. So progress has been slow, and most South Africans believe something has to be done to accelerate change, providing it does not hurt the economy or stoke unrest. So Nick Barain, an independent policy analyst, said reforming the land distribution and ownership will be good for South Africa. He said that there will be instability and worries about poverty rates is inevitable, but we don't expect the government will act in a way that radically destabilizes investor security. And President Trump's tweet came days after it was announced that his wife Melania would travel to Africa in October for her first major solo international trip as First Lady. And in January, South Africa protested to the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria about reported remarks by President Trump that some immigrants from Africa and Haiti came from a word I'm not going to say, countries. You know what people thought he said. And Booker said, this is a guy that calls those countries S-hole. Countries, he's shown a level of not just ignorance, but meanness, bigoted ideas. Okay, and I'm checking, sorry for the delay over here online to get that next story ready for you guys. So a couple more, and I actually have a video for this one. I can only show you the last minute because of copyright, but I'm going to first go through the information with you guys. So Nikki Haley is fighting to get U.S. companies a bigger piece of the action on lucrative UN contracts. And this is from Fox News. So as part of Ambassador Nikki Haley's push to advance the Trump administration's America First agenda at the United Nations, the hard-charging ambassador is fighting for U.S. businesses to get a bigger slice of the more than $18 billion in contracts the world body hands out each year. And the U.S. is already the biggest recipient of these procurement contracts, but officials say that number is growing since Haley took office. In 2017, the U.S. won $1.74 billion in contracts, approximately 9% of the $18.6 billion available. And the next highest was India, which picked up 4.8% of all contracts. And that marks almost a 10% uptick in contracts awarded to U.S. businesses from 2016. But Haley and the U.S. mission aren't done and are looking at ways to get more lucrative contracts awarded. It's part of the broader effort by Haley and the Trump administration to make sure the United Nations' biggest contributor gets a better deal there. And she told Fox News, "We are very proud of our American companies, from the quality of their products to the efficiencies of their services. We will continue to use all of these resources we have available to help our companies win UN contracts." And her office is not necessarily strong-arming the UN into awarding contracts to American companies. It is a competitive process, but it is urging those companies to seek UN business while facilitating meetings between them and UN officials. And Cherith Norman Chalet, the U.S. representative for UN management and reform, told Fox News that the U.S. mission is increasing the number of seminars across the country that feature business representatives and officials from UN agencies, including UNICEF, CEF, and the World Food Program. So Ambassador Haley said it's to try to help companies understand the process, what the opportunities are at the UN, and what the needs the UN are looking for. So really trying to matchmake in the best possible way. Whereas in recent years, there would be a few general seminars a year, all in New York. This year, the U.S. mission, working for the Commerce Department, is holding a number of state-specific seminars across America. And so far, these have been held in Wisconsin, Rhode Island, and Mississippi. On Thursday, a seminar in Detroit, Michigan featured more than 150 companies, along with representatives from the Secretariat, UN Development Program, the World Food Program, and UNICEF. So in October, there will be a private sector day, which also includes discussions and information about the policy side of the UN and the impact on businesses. And another more general seminar is being planned in New York this fall on the subject of aviation, in hopes of leveling the playing field on a contract area that traditionally has been dominated by Russia. The goal, Chalet said, is to increase visibility of the U.S. mission led by Ambassador Haley, showing that we're going to further in ensuring the U.S. companies have equal opportunity at the UN, and that we will continue to be the number one in procuring those contracts. And she said, "We've done well, we're doing better, and we have more to go." And while the numbers for on the 2018 contracts are not yet available, officials say they're hopeful for continued growth, and the seminars have seen a significant increase in attendance. And in addition to the 9% increase in procurement contracts, the U.S. says the number of U.S. companies registered as vendors on the UN Global Marketplace, where companies registered to bid on UN contracts and to be altered about available contracts, spiked from 10,545 in 2016 to 16,004 in 2017. And Chalet said, "From what we can tell, based on the seminars as well as interaction with UN, what these have done this year is really match the needs and increase awareness of companies so they can be even better prepared to put in the bids and be more successful in being selected." And the Better World campaign, which pushes for better relations between the U.S. and the UN, hailed the developments and noted that while the top states that benefited from contracts were New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and California, the benefits were being felt across the country. And President Peter Yao said in a statement, 42 states plus Washington, D.C. are home to American companies that were awarded UN contracts in 2017. And he said this new data confirms that the UN is not only in America's foreign policy and national security interests, American corporations also benefit more than any other country in the world from procurement contracts with the UN. And the push represents part of the broader effort by the UN skeptical administration to get a better value at the organization, even as it moves to punish some arms of the world body. So while Haley has been a primary driver of action at the Security Council on areas such as North Korea and South Sudan, the U.S. has also pulled back where it doesn't see that value. The administration has withdrawn from the Human Rights Council, which is what I'm going to show you guys a short video clip of at the end of her statement, calling it a cesspool of political bias, and has gutted funding to the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency. The U.S. has also demanded cuts to the UN budget. And this week, in a speech in West Virginia, President Trump praised Ambassador Haley for securing $1.3 billion cut in UN spending since taking office, which he had said saved taxpayers $350 million. Okay, and I'm going to pull up the end of her statement for you guys.
And our membership in the Human Rights Council. We will keep trying to strengthen the entire framework of the UN engagement on human rights issues. And we will continue to strongly advocate for reform of the Human Rights Council. Should it become reformed, we would be happy to rejoin it. America has a proud legacy as a champion of human rights, a proud legacy as the world's largest provider of humanitarian aid, and a proud legacy of liberating oppressed people and defeating tyranny throughout the world. While we do not seek to impose the American system on anyone else, we do support the rights of all people to have freedoms bestowed on them by their Creator. That is why we are withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council, an organization that is not worthy of its name. Thank you.
So you can see her statement there, and I'm really not sure how shocked other countries were that we withdrew, just considering how they have been taking advantage of us for years and years. You know, President Trump said that America was the world's big fat piggy bank. He just said this, and he said it many times, but he just said it at his rally in Charleston, West Virginia, that America has been the world's big fat piggy bank for so long, we're not going to be anymore. And wanted to share some more articles with you guys that may not be a surprise. This is from pjmedia.com. Came out yesterday by Tyler O'Neill, that Facebook is censoring articles from conservative outlets about Manafort and Cohen. So multiple posts sharing articles by prominent conservatives have been temporarily censored on Facebook under the excuse that they look like spam. And both articles dealt with the Paul Manafort conviction and the Michael Cohen guilty plea, arguing that these events were not nearly as damning to President Donald Trump as the media supposed. And first, Facebook blocked Selena Nido, CNN contributor and author of the groundbreaking book, The Great Revolt, Inside the Populist Coalition Reshaping American Politics. And on Wednesday afternoon, Zito published a New York Post article explaining why President Trump supporters won't care about Cohen and Manafort's convictions. So on Thursday morning, she noticed something was out of place. She tweeted out, "So this is interesting. Facebook took down my post reporting for the New York Post. I've received 9 separate messages from readers telling me the same thing has happened to them. What's up, Facebook?" she asked in a tweet. So she shared a picture of the post removed from the social media platform with a message: "We removed this post because it looks like spam and doesn't follow our community standards." And she said, "They did put my article back up. They never responded to any of my inquiries. And she laid out the way she contacted Facebook. I first put out a polite tweet, then I direct messaged them, then I sent them a message through the Facebook page, and then I sent a message through support, no answer. And she said after trying to contact them through several different ways, the story miraculously reappeared. And Facebook also targeted Jenna Lynn Ellis, a contributor to the Washington Examiner, director of public policy at the James Dobson Family Institute, and author of The Legal Basis for a Moral Constitution, a guide for Christians to understand America's constitutional crisis. And Ellis published an article in the Washington Examiner explaining why Democrats are overreacting to the Michael Cohen guilty plea. She argued that plea bargains are a legal fiction, not confessions, and are not evidence of crimes or verdicts of guilt. Therefore, the Cohen plea did not implicate Trump in financial crimes. And Ellis shared the article on Facebook, and a friend took a picture of Facebook removing the post. Again came the same message: we removed this post because it looks like spam and doesn't follow our community standards. So Ellis told PJ Media, I reposted the screenshot and tagged Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, and the tags were immediately removed. And she argued that Facebook is trying to eat its cake and have it too. She said Facebook has every right to suppress content as a private platform, but they have to do so openly in their terms and conditions, which should give every user clear notice of the agreement for use. If they want to be a liberally biased platform, do so openly so conservatives can determine if they want to use that platform. And instead, the Facebook team are misrepresenting their user agreement and trying to benefit from conservatives adding to their user numbers to drive up value, but still censor selectively and against users' reasonable expectations in signing up for the platform. And Steve Bayan, senior digital engagement editor at the Washington Examiner, gave an update on Ellis's story. He reported, we have had another reader send a message to the Examiner's page with a similar problem. We have not received any violation notices from Facebook, and our original post is still up. However, the image is gone. And Bayan suggested that the problem may trace back to a bad bot. Unfortunately, most social media sites have bots that sometimes wrongfully ID spam or bad content. And Ellis showed PJ Media evidence of further looks like spam censoring. One photo showed a mobile notification with the same message: we removed your post because it looks like spam. And one of Ellis's Facebook friends reported receiving the same removal notice about a barbershop chorus video posted last night. The American Thinker's Thomas Lifson reported that other conservative articles have been blocked as spam as well. And Facebook did not respond to PJ Media's request for comment by press time. So this round of spam censorship, whether targeted at conservatives or not, seems to come at a particularly bad time for Facebook. Last week, the social media platform shadow banned the conservative educational video nonprofit PragerU. At least 9 of PragerU's Facebook posts reached 0 of their 3 million followers, and Facebook actually deleted some of their videos. And that move seemed ironic since PragerU had filed a lawsuit against Google last October alleging intentional censorship of conservative speakers. And YouTube continues to restrict access to PragerU videos without censoring similar videos from other less mainstream or less conservative accounts. So the Southern Poverty Law Center, a left-wing smear factory that brands conservative and Christian organizations as hate groups for disagreeing with their liberal worldview, has encouraged the censorship of conservatives online. Organizations on their hate group list have found themselves exiled. And just this week, GoFundMe effectively stole more than $2,500 from Jihad Watch founder Robert Spencer, whom the SPLC labeled as an extremist and a hate group leader. And this came shortly after Patreon deplatformed Spencer and Jihad Watch. And Amazon.com's charity program, Amazon Smile, dropped James Kennedy Ministries and the Alliance Defending Freedom, citing the SPLC hate group action. And last September, the credit card processing website Vanco Payments refused to work with the Ruth Institute, a small Roman Catholic pro-family nonprofit, due to its presence on the hate group list. And social media companies relying on the SPLC's hate group list may find themselves in a pickle. However, approximately 60 different organizations are considering separate defamation lawsuits against the SPLC over the hate group list. And even conservatives not among the groups targeted by the SPLC have found themselves targeted by Facebook. However, Christian scholar Robert Gagnon has been repeatedly suspended on Facebook, and in April, the social media platform suspended a German history professor for saying that Islam is not part of German history. Wow, so crazy. Definitely hate to see censorship against conservative news outlets. And speaking of conservative news outlets, I wanted to take a second to tell you guys about us, to tell you about RSBN in case you may not be familiar with us. So we are a conservative online news station, but we try to still be non-biased, just present you guys with the facts and let you make your own decisions. We do broadcasts just like these, nightly news recaps. They're usually later at night, but today I pushed this one back because I'll be doing more Hurricane Lane coverage tonight, so stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. But anyways, we also show White House press briefings, President Trump's speeches, and his roundtables, whatever we can that's available to us. And we also travel to President Trump rallies all around the country, which is such a blast. It's so exciting. It's so much fun to get out and see his supporters. He has thousands of supporters that come out that the mainstream media does not record as being there, but it's our job to do that. We pan the crowds for you guys. That's how RSBN became famous during President Trump's election, by panning those crowds. And we have a fantastic team of reporters and cameramen, and we go down in the middle of the crowd and we just interview people. We get to know them. We get to know their story, why they're there, what RSBN means to them, if they know us, because there are a lot of RSBN supporters. But most importantly, we get to know what President Trump means to them, what issues they're passionate about, and it's so much fun. But as you can imagine, it is very expensive. Each rally we travel to is at a minimum of $5,000 just with our plane ticket, or whether we are driving, then we have to get gas and rental cars and, food. And also just, we have to pay a couple $100s to get that live view up and running the day it's on as well. It's not free to stream. So, like I said, it's very expensive, and we are supported by you guys. We're donor supported. That's how we're able to do broadcasts like this, and that's how we are able to go to political rallies. And yes, Light Switch, I'm so glad you love the interviews. Those are my favorite part too. Just really getting to know people. So much fun hearing their story, telling their story, and then, giving them a little business card so that they can go back and watch it. So anyways, if you would like to make it possible for us to go to these rallies, the Trump campaign has announced that there will be at least 40 rallies in the next couple months before midterm elections. So we're definitely going to see lots of them. Our next one is next Thursday in Evansville, Indiana. And so it'll be a lot of fun. That's awesome. The Red Raven said it was my first rally with RSBN. Really enjoyed it, Alyssa. I like that you are on the ground floor and interview fellow MAGAs. Yes, it is so much fun. Such an honor to do that. And so to help us to be able to do that, you can donate right here on YouTube. You just click that $sign. That is our super chat button. And you can donate. Your name comes up in a bright color, and you can type a message, and I will share it with the whole world as long as it's appropriate. And I'll show you guys the other ways you can donate real quick on our website in case you have never been there before. So you just type in rsbnetwork.com, and wow, just received another $5 donation from Larry Stokes. Thank you so much for that, Larry. Really appreciate you. That'll be super helpful for our next rally. So, like I said, you go to the top on our website and you can click donate. And wow, just got a $10 donation from my dad, Gregory Ashe. Thank you so much for that. Miss you, love you, and hope you are having a great day. So at the very top, you click donate. And you can go down and you see this PayPal or credit card link. And PayPal is a great way to donate because we get to keep 90% of that donation, whereas on YouTube we keep 70% and they keep 30%. So over on the PayPal link, you enter the amount and you can enter your debit or credit card information, the billing address, and your contact information. And of course, if you would like to save this information for next time too. So another way to donate is through Patreon. That's the second link on our website on the donate page. And Patreon's really fun because you actually get something in return. You get to keep things. We send them to you. Hats, pens, pencils, stickers, t-shirts, different things to remember RSBN, to remember to watch us, and to share us with your friends. So you can become a patron. That's where you're a monthly donator and you are getting some of those goodies I just mentioned. So you click become a patron, and there are all different levels going from the entry level all the way up to the all access level when you're donating $500 or more a month. And the last way to donate, if you're not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that. You can send a check to us. You just write it out to RSBN, and our address is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama, 36830. And let's see, Whole L-Y, or maybe Holy, Holly, gave $10. Thank you so much. And she said, God bring your justice sooner rather than later. Thank you, Holly. Really appreciate that donation. That will be super helpful for us to get to that next rally. So I love it when you guys send checks in the mail too. It's such an honor because you guys always send handwritten letters too, and those are so sweet. We have one donor that decorates his envelope the same way every month with an American flag taped really well and like a map of America. They're really cool. So love going through those donations with Joe. It's an honor that I am able to do that. So thank you guys so much, all that have supported us so far. I'm going to see what else I have for you. I'm going to check, make sure you guys have not sent me any stories that I missed. This is a really interesting one. One of you sent me, I think it was DM. Thank you so much for this. And this is from BuzzFeed News. So tech companies are gathering for a secret meeting to prepare a 2018 election strategy. So representatives from up to a dozen of the US's biggest tech companies plan to meet in San Francisco to discuss efforts to counter manipulation of their platforms. So representatives from a host of the biggest U.S. tech companies, including Facebook and Twitter, have scheduled a private meeting for Friday to share their tactics in preparation for the 2018 midterm elections. And last week, Facebook's head of cybersecurity policy, Nathaniel Gleischer, invited employees from a dozen companies, including Google, Microsoft, and Snapchat, to gather at Twitter's headquarters in downtown San Francisco, according to an email obtained by BuzzFeed News. And Gleischer wrote, as I've mentioned to several of you over the last few weeks, we have been looking to schedule a follow-up discussion to our industry conversation about information operations, election protection, and the work we're all doing to tackle these challenges. In the meeting, the Facebook official wrote, will have a three-part agenda. Each company will present the work they've been doing to counter information operations. There will be a discussion period for problems each company faces and talk about whether such a meeting should become a regular occurrence. In May, 9 of those companies met at Facebook to discuss similar problems alongside 2 U.S. government representatives, Department of Homeland Security Under Secretary Chris Krebs and Mike Burham from the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force created in November. And attendees left the meeting discouraged that they received little information from the government. And tech companies, Facebook and Twitter in particular, have faced intense scrutiny for how slowly they initially reacted to reports that foreign intelligence and affiliated operations used their platforms to manipulate users ahead of the 2016 election, leading to drops in user confidence and a threat of regulation from lawmakers. So in Russia, Special Counsel Mueller's office charged 13 people affiliated with Russia's Internet Research Agency, a troll factory where employees created personas across multiple platforms with breaking laws in order to influence American voters. Since then, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr, and YouTube have each had at least one page of purge accounts believed to be foreign influence operations. And the meeting highlights tech companies' recent efforts to be more proactive with government's use of their sites to achieve political goals. Several companies have announced operations this week where they partnered with other organizations to address such problems. And on Tuesday, Microsoft announced that it had, for the 12th time since 2016, legally acquired control of a handful of web domains registered by Russian military intelligence for phishing operations and then shut them down. The next day, after receiving a tip from the threat intelligence company FireEye, Facebook and Twitter announced that they had taken down a network of fake news sites and spoofed users meant to create sympathy for the Iranian government's worldview. And Google made a similar announcement about YouTube on Thursday. And it looks like someone commented down here in the article in how to increasingly silence conservative voices. Hopefully not. And someone else commented, yeah, they are all meeting on their grand strategy on how to throw the election to the left and circumvent the American public once again. Okay, I'm going to switch over, see what else I have for you guys on this screen. So, really interesting article from Boston. This is from the city of Boston. And another conservative news outlet, the Daily Wire, posted it. And it's titled, Boston, No Christian Flags Over City Hall, Rainbow Flags, Okay. So in the city of Boston, rainbow flags are allowed to wave over City Hall while Christian flags are not. 59-year-old Harold Shirtliff, director of Camp Constitution, wanted to fly the Christian flag over the building last year, and the city has denied permission, prompting Shirtliff to sue. According to LifeSite News, Shirtliff wanted to fly a Christian flag with a red cross on a blue background with white on 3 sides at a city hall to commemorate Christianity's contribution to the city's history. He'd been acting on behalf of Camp Constitution, a charitable organization that promises Christian heritage in concert with the American Constitution. And Boston Property Management Commissioner Gregory Rooney told Shirtliff in an email, this policy and practice is consistent with well-established First Amendment jurisprudence prohibiting a local government respecting an establishment of religion. And he said this policy and practice is also consistent with the city's legal authority to choose how a limited government resource like the City Hall flagpoles is used. And in Shirtliff's lawsuit, he alleges that Boston's policy discriminates against religious groups while treating secular flags differently. It also alleges the city does not apply restrictions to city symbols, such as the city seal, which has the Latin inscription meaning, God be with us as he was with our fathers. And as noted by LifeSite News, English Puritans founded Boston and created their flagship institution, Harvard. The Massachusetts Constitution references God multiple times and extols the right as well as the duty of all men in society publicly and at stated seasons to worship the supreme being, the great creator and preserver of the universe. When it comes to the rainbow flag, however, Boston officials have no qualms about that. In fact, the city of Boston's official Twitter account posted about it during LGBT Pride Month. And the city of Boston said on their Twitter, this afternoon we raised the Pride flag on the City Hall Plaza to kick off Pride Week in Boston. A big thank you to all who joined us. And the city has also flown the blue, pink, and white transgender flag. Very interesting. Also, let's see, Dean H. said, is this news recap played every evening? Yes, Dean, it is. I do it Monday through Fridays as long as I am not away for a rally. So next week, you'll see it Monday and Tuesday, but not Wednesday through Friday because we will be traveling to and from the rally in Indiana on Thursday. Really excited for that. It's going to be a great time. So I think for now, that's all I have for you guys for the first afternoon news recap here on RSBN. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. It was an honor to have you guys, to interact with you. Loved the articles you sent me. They were fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here in the chat room. And remember to tune in tonight at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to have an update on Hurricane Lane for you guys in Hawaii. So please stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And please keep the people in Hawaii in your prayers as they're expecting Hurricane Lane. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys. And once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Alyssa Ashe. Have a great afternoon.